Kwazwai, Muri Zimbabwe, Linali, Chona, Janim, Takazamushe, Muri Zimbabwe, to everybody tuning in right now. Welcome, Muri Zimbabwe to Live Talk, The Connection, Studio 7's very own youth program that targets tackling anything and everything youth related. Muri Zimbabwe, this program is brought to you by Studio 7 Voice of America on Tuesday, May 10, 2022. Takazamushe, Zimbabwe, I'm your host, Mike Hove. Once again, welcome to Live Talk, The Connection, Studio 7's very own youth program that targets tackling anything and everything youth related. We're coming to you from my apartment in Washington, D.C. Now, Muri Zimbabwe, tonight on Live Talk, The Connection, we're going to be focusing on the challenges faced by Zimbabwean youth, which led to a campaign that started yesterday, which was a stay away campaign, Shutdown Zimbabwe, which was instigated by youth-led organizations such as the Zimbabwe National Students Union, who are currently protesting what they're calling extreme fees hikes. They're saying that the fees hikes that were introduced in Zimbabwe's higher tertiary institutions is extremely high and is unaffordable for a lot of students. So they're currently protesting that, but they're also calling for better living standards and better education standards in the higher tertiary institutions in Zimbabwe. But now that group there is also joined by other civic organizations or civic society groups, such as the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe and other nurses organizations who both are calling for better salaries. They're currently saying that the salaries that they're receiving from government are below living wages. So that's what we're going to be delving into Muri Zimbabwe namhlanje kuhlelo lwethu lwabasakhulayo phano panevenyire Studio 7. Now, unfortunately, Muri Zimbabwe, tonight's program is a pre-recorded broadcast. What that means is you, our loyal listeners, will not be able to call in live as per usual. However, we're still streaming this program on our 3 Facebook pages as we speak, Muri Zimbabwe. So as we speak, we're broadcasting on VOA Shona, VOA Ndebele kanye na VOA Studio 7. So as I mentioned, week in, week out, phano panevenyire Studio 7, lapha please write your comments in the comment section so we can see your feedback, and also share the program with your friends so that we can watch the program in our numbers. Now, for all those who are YouTube fanatics, as we speak, Muri Zimbabwe, we're not only broadcasting on Facebook, we're also available on YouTube. Our official page is at VOA Zimbabwe. So if you're a YouTube fanatic, go ahead and visit our YouTube page where you'll be able to watch this program and more. But now we're also available as we speak, Muri Zimbabwe, on our 3 web pages, that being www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voazimbabwe.com, then www.voashana.com. So Muri Zimbabwe, kindly share the program with your networks, and also like, do not forget to press the like button, Muri Zimbabwe, so that we get to see what's like so. Studio 7, Muri Zimbabwe, and last but not least, do not forget to write your comments in the comment section so that we get to see what I see sonke konapa emsakazweni we Studio 7 Chirichose Pano Panevenyire Studio 7. Now, usually Muri Zimbabwe, we like to start off our program with the latest COVID-19 statistics, but unfortunately, by the time we recorded this program, the latest COVID-19 stats were yet to be released by the Ministry of Health and Childcare. So without wasting time, let us delve into tonight's discussion. Shut down Zimbabwe. Now, as mentioned earlier on, Muri Zimbabwe, Zimbabwean students in tertiary institutions have taken it upon themselves to protest a drastic increase in fees. Now, their solution, stay at home. Very simple. For them, they're saying, Aiwa, stay at home within the higher tertiary institutions. Now, what they are currently calling for is they're calling for a reduction in fees in Zimbabwe. So hashtag fees must fall. That's one of their campaigns that they're running with. But they're also calling for better living standards and education standards. This protest action was joined by teachers organizations such as the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, and of course, as I mentioned earlier on, nurses organizations who both have expressed displeasure in their salaries. So all of them are joining this campaign, expressing displeasure in their salaries, but also other organizations have joined because they are highlighting displeasure in how things are in the country. So Muria Zimbabwe, you heard the hashtag Shutdown Zimbabwe. That is the campaign that we're talking about. Nasi now earlier on, Studio 7 Muria Zimbabwe this week, this weekend, I reached out to the president of the Zimbabwe National Students Union of Zimbabwe. That was on Sunday, Mr. Benon Ngube, ahead of the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign, to hear why they're pushing for this action. So he's going to join us via Skype, and we're going to talk a little more about that. But before we head over to our conversation with Benon Ngube Muria Zimbabwe, let's head over to a short clip that we have of students who are making their demands. The clip we're about to watch is courtesy of the Zimbabwe National Students Union of Zimbabwe.
Fees hikes every 2 weeks. Data is expensive, even though the data is needed for educational purposes. Tertiary education has now turned into a privilege. It's generally for the elite right now. This is so sad. What will happen to the girl child? Not educating the girl child, not empowering the girl child through education.
The gallant sons and daughters of this world, they dropped out of school and joined the liberation struggle to exonerate the country from the colonial rule. They fought for justice, freedom, and ownership. And what we're witnessing today is the betrayal of the gains of the liberation struggle by the government, who has forgotten the sacrosanct mandate to ensure that academic freedom and students' rights in Zimbabwe are upheld. As a result, they continue to impose exorbitant fees to a society which is facing economic crackdown due to illicit financial flows, corruption, and of course, political instability. Remember, in 2019, they were given 69 million for curriculum development. They failed to account. In 2020, they were given money to purchase 2,394 laptops for lecturers at polytechnics and teachers' colleges. They failed to account due to corruption. As a result, there's no development in our institutions, no infrastructural development, no equipment and labs. Lecturers are dropping every day because of poor salaries. But students are paying exorbitant amenities. As a recommendation, I would like to recommend the government of Zimbabwe to make sure, through its legislative methods, that each and every bona fide student of Zimbabwe must access education, regardless of full payment of fees or not, must be allowed to write his or her examinations, and must be allowed to register. The government of Zimbabwe must channel the 2% tax that was introduced by Mtuli to fund the education system. They must allow, they must give students loans and restore the grants initiative for those who cannot afford fees. The government of Zimbabwe must channel at least 15% of the foreign direct investment, especially on minerals. It must be channeled to fund education. The government of Zimbabwe must make sure that they revise the Procurement Act because according to the budgeting system in colleges, much of the funds, they are channeled to the procurement department, and yet there is no traceable development in whatsoever in terms of their mandate. What we can trace are the footprints of corruption. For the purposes of transparency and accountability, there must be a revised Procurement Act, and there must be a consolidated Education Act that actually keep for anomalies in our education system and protect the academic freedom. Comrades, in 2018, the president of Zimbabwe, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, promised us free education. And in 2022, fees has increased by 260%. However, moving forward, on the 9th of May 2022, the Zimbabwe National Students Union will hold and lead a progressive democratic mass demonstration that seeks to address the anomalies in our education sector, and that acts as a quest for the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Comrade Amon Murira, to address and respond to the demands of the students. I remain Comrade Bruce Moyo. I am a student. I am an academic freedom fighter. Thank you so much.
Now, many Zimbabwe, those were students there explaining the challenges that they're facing within, these higher tertiary learning institutions. And they're also calling for shut down Zimbabwe, calling for people to stay at home. This is a campaign that started on the 9th, which was yesterday. And according to Mr. Beno Ncube and other people that I spoke to, the campaign will be ongoing up until their cries are heard. Now, let us head over to my conversation with Mr. Beno Ncube to hear more about the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign.
It's important to note that the life of a student has been very difficult for the past years. And every generation of SINAS leadership comes in and then they experience the same thing. They talk about school fees, but then nothing changes. So it had become a culture that, we're now used to students dropping out. We're now used to having a class of 200 students, but only having 80 writing an exam. We're now used to students starving. We're now used to things like that. But then we sat down and we said, no, we can't normalize the abnormal. These are things that can be fixed, because you can even look at the budget in which the national treasury is offering, then you see that, no, this is misplaced priorities, because we don't want much. We just want to have a decent life as students in universities. So what can we do? Let's write to the ministry. So we wrote to the ministry twice. We even wrote to the parliamentary portfolio. But then to our surprise, the minister comes back and says, this is for quality education. That is why they are raising the fees. So we sat down and we looked at the situation, and it kept on getting worse. So we didn't need a prophet to tell that if you don't do something, it's going to get even worse even after your term. So we felt like let's try to express ourselves, because since writing, we have tried dialogue, they do not listen. Maybe if we can encourage students to express themselves. Then we said, okay, fine. From the 9th of May, students have to start expressing themselves. We are not saying they are not giving them a formula that don't go and bend this building or go and beat when. No, we're saying express yourself on what has been happening to you, whatever bad has been happening to you, just express yourself. So 9th of May is the starting day until the conditions are met.
I hear you say express yourself moving forward. In what forms? How are you encouraging the youth to express themselves? Is it social media? How exactly are you hoping that this will be done?
The first initiative that we did was an online Fees Must Fall campaign, in which every student had to just create a small placard and take a picture, then post it on social media, so that people, while it's addressing the things that they're going through. So we had a lot of posters saying accommodation, fees, raise, and all those things. That was the first part. Then the second part was saying, on the 9th of May, just don't attend those lectures. Just stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
On the 9th of May, that is the first. So it goes on with the way the state or the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education reacts. So since we wrote letters first, they didn't respond. We went to the social media campaign, they didn't respond. And then we will do another action which will encourage response, because that is the whole purpose of this thing. We just want them to, we understand quality education, we understand the fees hikes, but there's some things that they should also consider, because they've got these unreasonable registration deadlines. You find them that you've opened today, then after 2 weeks, they're saying this is the registration deadline, then you're done for good. So we're saying, there's some of the things that they can put into consideration of saying, okay, we will just withhold your certificates or your results, but you can proceed. We will just withhold onto this, or you can pay in installments. We will extend the registration deadline, because we also understand that they are also running a fractured economy, which of course is not our fault, but they can't make everything seem like we can't finance the running of a university as students if the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education cannot finance the university. So 9th of May is the start, which is the stairway. And then from there, we will plan another action, which we hope will encourage response.
There has been previous campaigns that have been done that are similar to yours, of the whole idea being, let's put a hold to it to make a statement. We saw previously Mr. Jacob Mafume and other politicians ran a similar campaign, the whole idea being to alert the world that, hey, there's corruption in Zimbabwe. You are highlighting that, hey, we're facing issues within the education system. Now others are saying we're facing issues within the transport system, et cetera, etc. However, even after this protest action happens, the issues still continue. And so what makes you think that this time there'll be anything different?
I think usually these protests or these actions are done by politicians. That is the difference. So when something is being done by a politician, when whatever they were pushing for, or be it sort of maybe relevance, or be it registration of a certain political party, when those things get done, they are done. But this time is coming from the people themselves. So I know people will not stop until that transport system is solved, because as long as they're going to have to walk home at 8 p.m. in the evening, even if they don't have a reason to stop, as long as I'm going to have music for lunch at school, I'm definitely not going to stop, because until I see that there's a change. So we're going to keep on pushing and pushing. It's different from when it's being done by a politician, because they might turn and say it's political, but we've got the figures on the table. And then we're telling the last semester was 30,000. This time you're saying 75,000. Yet a loaf of bread costs 500, and then my rent costs $140. So how do you expect me to balance all those things? So I think it's going to work. We're not going to stop. Let me just say that we're not going to stop until something has to break.
Now, tell me exactly what when you say something has to break, what exactly are you hoping to achieve out of all this?
We are hoping to restore the dignity of the students. We just wish that the ministry can just, the same way they come to us and encourage us to be innovative and make our own money to pay our own fees, is the same way that the ministry is supposed to go to these learning institutions and tell them that you should be innovative and fund yourselves, such that we meet in the middle. Because if they say that they're failing to back up an economy, then expect the students to run a learning institution of higher and tertiary education. It doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of things that can be done. There's grants, there's subsidizing education. Those are things that they should just put into consideration. If you look at the corruption cases that are happening, you find someone that 5 billion is missing, then you'll think to yourself, okay, if you just took 2 billion of that amount and then you just put it to the education sector, of course we're going to work something out. Subsidize education, put grants like they used to, or put some certain mechanisms. Say, okay, I'm going to withhold your certificate while you learn. Those things were there. These are things that they changed in a space of a year. And then you wonder, how can you change things for the worst when you know that the economy is plunging to the worst? You could be trying to go back to how things were, because of course they're failing to go forward, but back was even better. So if they're failing to go forward, we can even appreciate going back. So those things are there on the table. They've been done before. We just need to re-implement. It's not something new that they've never done.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've heard the president speak on issues when we're talking about development, when we're talking about protest action. President Mnangagwa has acknowledged that, it is your democratic right as a citizen of Zimbabwe to protest. However, he doesn't encourage it, because he would prefer that you turn to dialogue. He's highlighted that there's several different government institutions there that target helping young people in your position. And so why not resort to that? Yes, you've highlighted that you've attempted, but why not continue attempting to dialogue instead of turning to this?
It should be important that Emerson himself is the chancellor of all universities. So for us to struggle so much to get his attention, yet he's the chancellor of all universities, I think it's particularly unfair to say, whenever people come to you and then you close the door, then you open the other door, and then you come out and say, they should have come and talked to me, but you left the other door closed behind. The figures are there on the table. The number of dropouts are there. How is that political there? He is the chancellor of all universities. He was the first person who was supposed to, without even us going to, because he can easily get to us. We can't easily get to him. We can't even walk close to his office and knock the door, but he can just pick up the phone and say, someone so and so.
The hope to get his attention so that these issues can be addressed?
Yes, that is the main focus. We just hope that he can see that, there's nothing political about this and address the issue. Actually, I don't know how these people advise each other, but it would have been to his advantage to try and fix these things, because we're looking at thousands and thousands of voters and he's going to election next year. So these advisors of his should sit down and think properly.
We're actually going to delve a little deeper into that, but before we head over to that, you mentioned dropout rates and figures. So our audience really would be curious about that, as to how drastic is this issue for you to get to a stage whereby, as Nasu, you feel like let's just halt as all students and not attend college. Like, how many dropouts are we talking about? How many failure rates are we talking about? How drastic is this issue?
Okay, one thing for sure that these learning institutions will not do is to release a figure of people that deferred. But I will mention of my own institution because I'm one of the students that also deferred. Last semester, when I was supposed to write exams for my final year. I can tell you that from the first time I wrote my exams from when I was year one, we started as 200, we were 280 in my faculty. But every time when we're writing exams, an average of 40, 50 are not in that exam room. Last semester itself, we went to the vice chancellor. We had something about 650 students who were not registered, who was being told to defer, about 600 to 650. And then in my own class, I can assure you about 40 students did not write final year. So you're talking about someone who has been paying rent from year one up to year four. They have been paying fees and everything. Then final year, you just wake up and say, no, we are not writing. And then this is Midland State University, the second biggest institution in Zimbabwe. What of these other ones? What of these polytechnics, the teachers' colleges? So they won't disclose those figures. They won't. But from what I've seen in being the victim of this thing, because right now I actually have to repeat a semester that I'm starting, and then the fees are already increased. So if we were struggling to pay that amount that I failed to pay last semester, and then I'm going back to that semester, and now it's double that amount, of course, we have to double that number too of people that deferred.
Now, to move the conversation forward, you talked of elections, highlighted that 2023 is around the corner. And so I've spoken to some people who about this entire campaign, the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign, and one of them actually highlighted that it would be more advisable to invest this energy in educating your peers on voter education, making sure that come 2023, they use the ballots to make sure that their voices are heard. What would you say to someone who's in that position, who says, instead of trying to shut down the whole nation, why not use this opportunity to educate your peers, to gather each other, to make sure that come 2023, you can all voice your concerns?
We're already doing that. Even if you see the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, it's my future campaign. So for them to say we should have been doing that, we have done that. We're doing that. This is not another problem on the other side. So we can't forsake everything else because there's 2020 elections. That one is for the politicians. We'll just go there and vote. But here we're saying before elections, we can't wait for elections for them to fix the fees. They have to prove themselves now before elections, such that when we are encouraging people to vote, then we tell them that so and so has done this, and that. Politicians are going to push that side of encouraging people to vote in this particular direction. We are going to encourage young people to vote for whoever. They're supposed to vote for someone who's going to fix the learning institution situation. That is a fact. And they are old enough and smart enough to understand who has been doing wrong and who can do better. But we'll not dwell into that for now. We just need them to fix these conditions that we're going through as students for now.
I'm sure there's a lot of students who really are just hoping for the best on this and are hoping for an immediate turnaround. So if this situation that you are, this protest action or this action that you're all taking on the 9th, if it does not bear results on the 10th, what then? What would you say to that young student?
I will try again on the 11th, on the 12th, 25th, 2023, 2024. We'll try again over and over and over again, because it's not because we have failed. No, it's because what I know, let me tell you for sure what's going to happen. They're going to deploy police. That's what they're going to do. And that's enough to stop the progress for that particular time. But the idea will live on. Someone is just going to come on and carry and take it forward. We'll try it over and over again and we'll not stop. I know someday it's going to work. It took a lot of tries to make a light bulb. We are that patient.
Now, what does this protest action, because on one part, someone's saying stay at home. Is there any street activity? What does it look like?
From the student perspective, we are saying students should stay at home, which is for the 9th.
Okay.
We haven't advised any student to go to the street. Okay. We are saying students should go at home. The streets that will go to other universities, because that is our street.
Shutdown Zimbabwe.
Lapha lihlangana labantwana besikolo bekhuluma betshengisela or belazisa ngobuhlungu abahlangana labo bese kufundeni ema-university. So thina njengenhlanganiso ehlanganisa ama-students wonke afundayo, sithe thina sizovula leyo platform mhla ka-9 ukuthi batshengisele ukuthi bezwa njani ngobunzima lobahlangana labo ezikolo, ngoba sesibona ukuthi ukuthula kusoze kuphonge kulethe umahluko. Kunini sithule, kunini sihlezi phansi. So sithi mhla ka-9 abangayi esikolo, bahlale phansi. Yindlela ukuthi ngokokuqala asonto yelanga elilodwa, ilanga lokuqala ukuthi uzothatha iminyaka emingaki or amaviki amangaki or amahora amangaki, lokho kuza determine ukuthi i-response yabantu laba kumele balungise lezi ndaba ze-fees bazabe bephendule kwanini. But siqala mhla ka-9 ngabantwana besikolo abatshengiselayo ukuthi sebethwele nzima kulezi ndawo zokufunda.
Umongameli Emmerson Mnangagwa ikhuthaza abasakhulayo ukuthi babe lengxoxo ngohulumende, ikakhulukazi ngesikhathi esinje whereby you guys njengabasakhulayo likhanya litshengisela ukuthi hayi alithabanga ngalokho okwenzakalayo elizweni. Like lazama na ukuba lengxoxo lohulumende?
Akunzima ukuthi nasiphonga usondela kuye. So esikwanisa ukwenza ukubhala incwadi la khona ke sikwenza ku social media and sesikwenzile, but yena akakatsho even kanye ukuthi adobhe leyo phone yakhe athi bengicela ukukhuluma lani or asikhulume bafana or wathi asenzeni so hayi uthule. Kodwa ngabe kwafika wathi ukuthi asikhulumeni asali ngoba siyazi ukuthi ipower ivela ngaphi, lokho siyakwazi. But yena ukuthi athi sikwesenele sokubuya kwi-ofisini yakhe sibe soqoqoda ambone ukuthi singaphenduka siphila nxa singahamba khona, but yena uyenelisa ukuthi athi sebone lokho asibize and siyenelisa ukuhamba gladly singala problem. So la kumele abone ukuthi thina siready.
Lifisa ukuba lempumelelo enjani lisebenzisa umkhankaso lo we-Shutdown Zimbabwe?
Kulezi inhlungu eziningi ezihlupha ama-students, kule ndaba ze-rental, because izikole azisenelisi ukugcina abantwana phakathi, but zilokhu zithatha phela zibangenisa ezikolo. So bagcina siya-rent ezindlini phandle, sesibhadala ama-rent amakhulu ukudlula even sona i-school fees sangikhona kumele sisibhadale lesi. So sifuna ukuqala kulungisa indaba le yama-rentals, ngoba la indaba yama-rentals izinto ezi-under of ministry ye-housing iyakwanisa ukupheka ukuthi nxa lihlala ligcina abantwana bethu so gcinani i-rentals la sibuye kwindaba ze-fees. Yebo siya-understand ilizwe lethu lifile, angeke sithi nabehlise i-school fees kuze kufike leli nani lilapha phansi. Sithi noma kusala abafake ezinye indlela zokuthi senelise ukubhadala ngesikhathi esenelayo, ngoba le imali abayidingayo uholo lwabazali bethu alufiki half yano le imali abayidingayo. Okusho ukuthi bona nxa becabanga kuhle kumele bathi ukuthi alright, khupha engaka ngenyanga ezingaka wenelise ukuthi nxa usubhala ubusubhadela. Kumbe bathi hayi thina sizabamba ama-results akho, wena uzaqina ubhadala imali yethu nxa usufuna uthathe i-certificate. But bona bayakutshela ukuthi uthi uvule lamuhla ngemva kwamaviki amabili bathi awukakhuphi le imali esiyifunayo, so wena sokumele uphinde. Sibona ngani lokho akulunganga given ukuthi yibo abanikazi belizwe and bayakwazi ilizwe abalibusa limi njani.
Njengoba umkhankaso lo uqala mhla ka-9, mhla ka-10 ke bakhona abanye abontanga ababuza ikakhulukazi ku-social media bayabuza besithi okay yebo siyatshengisela mhla ka-9, mhla ka-10 ke if there's no desired result bona kumele bayenze.
I think sokufika isikhathi sokuthi abantwana bazwisise ukuthi into le esiyenzayo asiyenzeli omunye umntwana, uyazenzela wena wedwa lawe as a student, because noma ukwanisela ukubhadala I assure you kusiyadlula ama-semester lawa abuyayo agcina ungasakwanisi. So thina sithi umhla ka-9 ngokuqala lawe as a student ungabona kungalungiswanga leyo ndaba from mhla ka-9 ungabuyeli eklasini until kuze kulungiswe, ngoba the moment ubuyeli iyakhwela futhi and ukhangele kungabi fair kwakhona. Wena ungahamba omunye engahambanga esithi wena sithi umele abanye, wena usuhamba uyofunda. Mhla kusehlula wena ukuthi ufunde, ubona ngani ngubani ozabuya futhi azokuncedisa wena sokungumkhalayo, ngoba ukukhwela azakhwela akula muntu olungisayo phela besihlala khona lapha. So akhwela le number lesikhuluma akhwela. So ama-students kumele understand ukuthi no one is coming ukuzosinceda, kumele sisincede thina and i-platform sesiyifakile nansi, kasingawuyeli emuva until njobe sithi uchancellor of universities athi sihlale phansi sikhulu.
Isikhathi sesidliwe nguMangoyi Benon, bengicela ukuthi uphosela amazwi akho okugcina.
Ngithi mina ilizwe lakhiwa ngabatsha, and thina abatsha kumele silungise kusasa lethu khathesi, singavumeli ukuthi ikusasa lethu livinjwe ngabantu abavele sebekhulile bona kudala abasebesemaphethelweni empilweni zabo. Kuqakathekile ukuthi siprotecte impilo zethu khathesi ngokumeka sure ukuthi siyaqiqeqisela ekuqeqetsheni kwethu ukwenzela ukuthi sikenelise ukusebenza phambili, ngoba singayekela ukulungisa khona abantwana bethu bazakhala khona esikhala ngakho khathesi, and siyabe siyi-disappointment yabazali in generations to come. Siyachasa sithi udaba olunjalo ebantwaneni bethu.
Okay, just a summary pachidimbu neshona ndandichikumbira kuti muudze vanhu zvizere nezvechirongwa chenyu motiudza kuti chikasashanda musi wa9 modi musi wa10.
Ichi chirongwa ichi ndechema-students ari kutoratidzira kuti tiri kutambura kuma-institutions kwatiri kubva, and tanyanya kunyarara izvezvi taakuvaudza kuti aiwa vabereki negovernment taneta, saka apa taakutoti musi wa9 taakukuudzai kuti taneta tatambura. Saka musi wa9 ndeyokutanga zviri kuenderera mberi, because zvinongomira kana todzoka kuzokuudzai kuti aiwa izvezvi zvaita. Kana tisati tadzoka, even mukaona tanyarara for 2 months 3 months, tazongomuka futi pamberi taakudzoka futi taakutoti aiwa tichiri kutambura. Saka ndezvekutanga izvi musi wa9 zviri kuenderera mberi, zvinogona kutora makore but zviri kuenderera mberi. Problem ndeyekuti tiringodawo kuti kana tichidzidzawo togona kuraramawo life iri normal. Hazvirevi kuti ndaenda kuuniversity ndaakutoita training yekuita musodza, aiwa. Ndiri kutoita training yekuti ndigone kurarama life yanguwo ndadzidza. Ndikatotambura ndisiri kudzidza ndotambura ndapedza kudzidza ndichishaya kwekushanda, chikoro zvacho ngazvitovharawo tongoitawo masupermarket, because kana tisingagoni kumabhadhara kama-universities acho angaangobvara, anenge akushandei.
Nerurimi rwamai neshona ndandichikumbira kuti mupete hurikuredu muchikanda mashoko enyu kupedzisira kune vateereri.
Vadzidzi nevabereki ngavachiziva kuti uyu ndio mukana wekuti vamire nema-students, even ivo vanogona kubhadhara ngavachinzwisisa kuti mari idzi dziri kuenderera mberi. Saka kana vagona kubhadhara nhasi, mangwana vachatadza. Vakatadza kumira nevamwe nhasi, kana zvakuvanetsa ivo mangwana, vachauya sei kuzokumbira rubatsiro kune avo vavakasiya pavaikumbira rubatsiro. Saka iyi ndo nguva yekuti Zimbabwe yese, because muchofanira kuziva chacho kuti even vetransport vacho ndo vanotransporta ma-students kuvaendesa kuchikoro, manesi acho ndo vabereki vevana, maticha acho ndo vabereki vevana, maticha acho ndo vanotambira mari iri kukumbirwa kumayunivhesiti kuti vadzidzise vana. Saka uyu ndio mukana wekuti vambotaura, hazvina politics mukati, hazvina Nelson Chamisa mukati kana kuti Mnangagwa mukati. Zvingori zvekuti mari iyi yamuri kutambidza vabereki vedu kuti vadzidzise kuchikoro idiki, iyezve tikumbiro kuti mumbogadzirisa apa neapa.
Well, muri Zimbabwe manga muchinzwa kubva kuna vaBenon Ncube, ndiye kamutungamiriri wesangano reZimbabwe National Students Union kana kuti ZINASU. Vanga vachinyatsosanangura mazvinzwira kava vachitsanangura nerurimi rwamai, echasisa ngempela ngolwimi lwesiNdebele, explaining there in English, all 3 languages, explaining more about the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign and the challenges that they're facing as Zimbabwean youth. And according to Mr. Ncube, they're urging all students within higher and tertiary learning institutions, they're saying stay at home until government heeds their call and government is willing to talk to them about how their challenges can be addressed. But now, as I mentioned earlier on, this protest action is not just only being done by students within the higher tertiary learning institutions, but it's also being done by teachers, also being done by nurses organizations, and also being done by everyday people. Now, to hear more about this, I reached out to Chunyasha Gwazemba, who is a youth rights activist based in Bontutu, there. I reached out to him on a Monday via telephone to hear his thoughts on Shutdown Zimbabwe. Mr. Gwazemba stands in solidarity with the youth. So I looked to him to hear more about why the ordinary Zimbabwean would want to partake in such a program. So let's hear more from Mr. Gwazemba.
We are shutting down the country. We are tired with what the government of Zimbabwe is doing to the Zimbabwean people. Transport system, the Zuppo monopoly has failed. So we are tired, and the nurses also are tired, the teachers are tired, the police, the soldiers are all tired. So that's why we are saying we are shutting down the country. We are saying every Zimbabwean should not go to work, should not go anywhere. They should remain back home and stay back at home. If there's a need for people to be demonstrating on the street, we will be there on the street and we will be there on the ground.
Mr. Kwazemba, we hear you there. You know, our audience is a little more curious on that. They need a little more information. So with that in mind, could you just give us a little more additional information on the reasons behind this campaign?
Okay, the reason for the shutdown is the fees. It started with the ZINASU, with the students from the universities, UZ and MSU and the other universities. The fees is now too much, because you can't be saying your parents are civil service that are earning almost 30,000 RTGS or 20,000 RTGS, and then you up the university fees to 40 to 64,000, up to 1 million RTGS, and then you expect them to pay that money. Nurses at the same time, they are also crying. They cannot sustain their livelihoods. Because now if you go to the shops to buy just a 10 kg of millimilli, it's close up to almost 6,000 or 7,000 RTGS. So you can't, if you're a normal person, you can't sit down and just say everything will be well. At least you're seeing the price is going up on a daily basis. Corruption is at its high peak. Transport, now I'm talking about transport that I'm on the ground. You go by 6th Avenue here in Bulawayo. People are boarding, they're going home as up to 12 or 11 in the night waiting for transport.
Now, Mr. Kwazemba, President Emerson Mnangagwa has addressed the whole discussion of protesting on several times throughout his time as president. Now, he's talked about protests and he says, you know what, yes, he acknowledges that it's every Zimbabwean's right, it is every Zimbabwean's democratic right to protest. But he does encourage, though, that instead of quickly turning to protests, it is important that one explores all options, and amongst those options would be dialogue with the government options that are there, the different departments, the ministries, and the local governments that are there, to see whether or not government can address that problem before turning to protests. Why is that something that's not being explored right now?
I think now the time to negotiate, the time is lapsed. We've tried to negotiate. The nurses have tried, the teachers have tried, anyone has tried. We have tried the teachers. How many years the teachers have been trying to negotiate with them? How many years the nurses have been trying to negotiate with them? Nurses were bashed in Harare when they tried to negotiate for their pay. So at the end of the day, it's just pointless to sit down and say we're having a dialogue.
Now, there's a lot of apolitical citizens who don't support, who aren't really people who do politics. They're just citizens who want to get by day. They agree with the ethos of the whole Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign, saying that, you know what, they face so many challenges in the country and they really would like government to address them as soon as possible. However, one person really asked one specific question, which was, yes, the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign happened on Monday and a lot of people stayed at home. However, what happens come Tuesday? What happens come Wednesday if government doesn't heed the calls of the campaign? Could you kindly respond to that?
As for the youth of the nation of Zimbabwe, we are tired with what is happening in this country. The youths are tired because at the end of the day, we are in the receiving end. The youth in Zimbabwe, they don't know what is a job. They don't know what is a pay slip. Some of them, they don't even know what is an ATM machine. They don't know all those things. So we are saying as the youth, let us shut down this country. We are tired of what they are doing. Enough is enough, because the youth now, we are the backbone of this country. No job creation. There's nothing that you can talk about and say the youth are benefiting in this country. We as the youth, we are now taking things into our own hands and dealing with this once and for all. Even Joshua Nkomo himself said it and said the youths are going to free this country. And that is what we are aiming to do, to free this country on with this shutdown. We are not going to stop with this shutdown.
Now, Mr. Kwazemba, the Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign is not the first protest action that citizens have taken against government, trying to get government's attention to address several different challenges. And there's a lot of young people who are watching this and feel as though this is just a repetition of history, whereby citizens go out, protest action happens, people express their dissatisfaction, but the issue is not addressed. So some feel as though this might just be another exercise that we're doing. But it's not heeding the calls that people are making. So what would you say to a young person who's watching this and feels that way? He feels as though this could just be repetition of history.
Now we are saying we should not give up as the youth. Yes, we know we have been calling for shutdown for a very long time, and some of them they fail. Some of them we end up getting arrested. But this time we are saying, let us all stay at home. We are saying no to looting, but let us all remain home, so that we show the government that we are tired. All these youth, we should stand up now and claim this country and want a new government that is going to offer opportunities to the youth of Zimbabwe, because it's pointless to say as a young person, I won't get involved in this shutdown. But at the end of the day, you're not working. There's nothing that you are doing. So it's high time we take this thing up and say we are shutting down Zimbabwe, and we unite and fight for one cause for this shutdown to be a success.
Now, in that spirit, Mr. Kwazemba, there are some experts who really are advocates for peace. They feel as though the 2023 general elections are around the corner. And they argue, well, it's great that you guys really have shown that you are dissatisfied with what's happening in the country. However, instead of doing that, why not invest that energy into bringing youth together to ensure that come 2023, the general elections are around the corner. People can go out in their numbers to vote, to ensure that they actually have the government that they want to govern them, and that will address their issues. So what would you say to an expert who is of that opinion, who's saying that instead of investing more time into shutdown campaigns such as this one, invest more time into ensuring that people register to vote and people vote next year?
We know what we are going for in 2023. We will vote. We have ran this register to vote hashtag, and we have ran this voter registration plates. But we know that in where we are going to 2023, it's not going to be an easy road. But we are saying now, when it comes to 2023, let us all go and vote in high numbers. When we vote, make sure you don't leave the polling station. We are going to guard our vote. We are going to make sure we are going to count the votes. We will be there protecting our vote.
All right, Mr. Kwazemba, let me hold you there on the line for a second. Thank you so much for your input. Let me just hold you there. Let me translate for our Shona audience our entire conversation. And then when I come back to you, we'll wrap up our conversation. Honguka hamane shamwari kune munhu wese ari pano pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki muineni Mike Hove tinotenda zvikurusa pari zvino tiri kuita hurukuro navanyasha Kwazemba wechidiki anogara kuBulawayo paanorwira kodzero dzevechidiki. Tiri kuzeya nyaya yezvechirongwa che-Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign icho chakarongwa nevechidiki vesangano reZinasu Zimbabwe National Students Union, apo vari kuchema nenyaya yekuti hanzi school fees dzavo aiwa vabereki vavo vari kuti havachakwanise kudzibhadhara nekuti yakwidzwa zvakati wandei, asi vari kuchema zvakare vachiti vabereki vavo vari kuti havasi kukwanisa kubhadhara school fees nepamusana pekuti mari yavari kutambira ishoma. Chirongwa chavo chekuratidzira vamire pamwe chete nemasangano anomirira varayiridzi, ma-Teachers Association akafanana naATUS, zvekare vamire pamwe chete nemasangano akamirira ma-nurses munyika. Saka pari zvino tiri kumboita hurukuro navaKwazemba wechidiki anorwira kodzero dzevanhu, ari kuti aiwa naye amire pamwe chete nechirongwa che-Shutdown Zimbabwe nekuti haasi kufara nemabatirwo ari kuita vechidiki munyika. Hanzi vechidiki mabasa nanhasi kuna vanhu vakati wandei vatosvitsa makore 40 vatodarika zera ratinoti munhu wechidiki. Hanzi nanhasi havasi kutoziva kuti paycheck yakaita sei nhasi kune vanhu vakati one day vanotosvika kuma-ATM vasingazivi kuti ATM inoshanda sei nepamusana nokupa vakatodarika 40 years vasina kana basa vachitambira mari. VaGwazemba vati vamire pamwe chete nevadzidzi ava vari pasi pesangano reZinasu vari kuti abodo havasi kuenda kuchikoro kusvika hurumende yagadzirisa matambudziko avo. Ndambovabvunza vaGwazemba ndikati instead of kubuda neuwandu hwenyu muchindoratidzira madii kumboedza kukurukura nehurumende, vaGwazemba vati aiwa mukoma Mike patova nemakore akati one day varayiridzi pamwe chete manesi pamwe chete nevadzidzi vachiedza kukurukura nehurumende asi zvisingabudirire, vachingovimbiswa asi nanhasi hapana chati chabuda pane hurukuro dzavati vaita nehurumende. Saka vari kuti aiwa the only way yekuti hurumende vachiona kuti aiwa vanhu ava vari serious nyaya dzavo ngadzigadzirise nekukasika hanzi Shutdown Zimbabwe campaign. Nhasi musi wechipiri chirongwa ichi chakaitwa nezuro ndipo pachakatanga vadzidzi mabhonzo hurukuro yataita navaBeno Ncube vesangano reZinasu hanzi aiwa chirongwa chiri kuendera mberi. vaGwazemba navo vari kuti chirongwa chiri kuendera mberi. Saka ndiyo nyaya yatinayo pano pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki mureZimbabwe. Tiri kuzeya nyaya yezvechirongwa cheShutdown Zimbabwe. Vadzidzi vari kuchema, vechidiki vari kuchema, varayiridzi vari kuchema, manesi vanamukoti navo vari kuchema. Imi muri kuzvionawo sei? Nyorai maonero enyu mucomment section papeji redu reVOA Shona paFacebook. Mnumzana Gwazemba hoti nguye kuwe usakhonekcingwa nangithi bafo udaba esilalo kuhlelo uluzwile asithintene udaba lolo ngolimi lukamama ngamafishane. Bengicela ukuthi uchasisele uzulu okuningi ngomkankaso we-Shutdown Zimbabwe.
Umkankaso lo we-Shutdown Zimbabwe ngumkankaso oyenzakale after sokubonakale ukuthi uhulumende wethu usuyehlulekile ukunceda umphakathi weZimbabwe. Sebehlulekile ukunika amanesi imali ethengayo, sebehlulekile ukunika amapholisa lama-teacher imali ethengayo, sebehlulekile konke lokhu. Kathesi sesikhuluma sikhanyana lodubo lwezoko, akula michova, abantu bahamba nzima emsebenzini, kodwa yona igovernment ibhana izimota amakhumbi ukuthi angene achove bayawabhana. So that's why we've called sesibizele ukuthi no, sokwanele sesidiniwe ngalokhu. Kungangcono sivale ilizwe, abantu bakankase, sivale si-exercise i-right yethu yokuthi sidemonstrate, ngoba le uhulumende wethu usevele wehluleka, sesithengisele ukuthi vele seyehlulekile yonke into ukuyenza. Lama-students ama-university bayakhala, ama-fees angikhona aqanisa njalo nje. Abanye abazali ngama-civil servants abakwanisi ukuthi babhadale leyo mali efunwa ngama-university. Abantu kabahlale phansi bengayi emsebenzini, bengayi indawo, ukuze uhulumende azaqale ahlangane lathi agcwalise lezo sithembiso azenzayo, njalo anike abantu imali ethengayo. Ama-fees ama-university lezikolo ayehliswe.
Mnumzana Gwazemba, uhulumende kaMongameli Emmerson Mnangagwa yena uthi ukhuthaza ukuthi uZulu azame ukwenza ingxoxo nohulumende, kukhulunyiswane ukuthi yena uhulumende engalusisisa njani inhlupho zikaZulu, hathi ukugijimela ukuyotshengisela. Wena ukubona njani lokho?
Uhulumende kaMnangagwa sesizamile ukuthi sihlale laye phansi sikhulumisane laye. Ungakhanyela iminyaka edlulileyo ama-teacher I think sebehlalisane nohulumende kaMnangagwa more than 10 or 15 times. Amanesi last time bazama ukuthi bahlale phansi bakhulumisane nohulumende kaMnangagwa, kodwa amanesi agcina esengahlukunyezwayo, sebechaya, sebegijinyiswa, babutshwa abanye. Sokwehlule ukuthi sizame ukuthi sihlale phansi nohulumende kaMnangagwa sikhulumisane laye. Sokwehlule ukuthi sifike ukuthi sikhulumisane nini, because sithi hayi sisi sokwehlule ukuthi sikhulumisane, kungangcono si-exercise i-right yethu okubhale ku-constitution yelizwe ukuthi hayi sile right yokuthi singene emgaqweni sikankase, sokuthi sihlale ezindlini zethu singaphatheki ku-anything eyenzakala kuleli lizwe until beze bebona ukuthi for sure abantu sebethi kuyafana nawabiza abantu wathi amaphathi sibe sizohlala phansi kwinto abayibumbayo kuthiwa yiPoland. Asingeke thina sihambe siyehlala kuPoland entweni egcwele amaphuphethi aweZANU-PF asingeke sehlala khona ngale ngoba at the end of the day the same ilukhuze leyo iPoland bathengele izimota akula tshintsho asebelwenzile lokho bahlala phansi lePoland akula into asebeyenzile eZimbabwe noma ngaze lizame ukuhlala phansi njalo nohulumende bathi bayenza into yankuna yonke kayiphumeleli mangaki amathenda mangaki ama-promises ehlalelwa phansi ihulumende kaZANU-PF akula nto eyi-1 eseke yaphumelela wahlala phansi tuhlezi abantu be-Coca-Cola bamnika amillion lanamuhla kwaphelele endleleni kwathiwa emashaba kuzavula imayini iqhatsha abantu lanamhlanje ayikavulwa ekhwekhwe kwatshiwo ukuthi kwazavula enye imayini ezaqhatsha abantu lanamhla akula nto esiyenzwe yihulumende eseke yaphumelela njalo yikho sithi ukuhlala laye phansi akusancedi kungangcono sithengisile siyenze leyo shutdown ukuze babone ukuthi sesizamile konke kona lokhu kuzama ukukhulumisana labo sekwehluka
njengosakhulayo kuyini okwenza ukuthi uqakathekise ukuphatheka kulo mkhankaso
Okay, okungenza mina njengosakhulayo ngiphatheke kulo mkhankaso ukuthi sengibonile ukuthi intsha yethu eningi abakaze abasebenze abakaze bahole yona i-payslip kabayazi ukuthi imali ibantu ithathwa njani kwe-ATM abanye bakwazi ukuthi babethunywa ngabazali but bona intsha ayikaze ikuthole khona lokho abanye sebeze begwanisa 30 to 40 abanye sebeze begwanisa 29 years abakaze basebenza so ukuthola sisithi sekele ukuphatheka kulo mkhankaso kuyasibisela emuva njengentsha sokugcwele abantu nje kuphela amaintsha yonke ibhema ama-drugs so at the end of the day kungangcono sitshengisele njengentsha siphatheke kule shutdown ukuze uhulumende wethu abone ukuthi abantu abatsha sebediniwe.
I'm Mnumzana Kwazemba. Thank you so much. We heard you there. As we wrap up here, post your last sentiments to our audience.
On 2023, I also encourage the youth to go and exercise their right and vote. Who they want to vote, what's the new government that they want. So 2023 is going to be a game changer. We are all going to go out in large numbers and protect our votes. We are not only going to vote, we are going to vote and make sure we sleep at the polling station to guide our vote. 2023, I'm encouraging all the youths to go and register and to vote in high numbers so that 2023 we go out as the whole of Zimbabwe, as the young person of Zimbabwe to vote for change.
Yechirongwa ichi cheshutdown Zimbabwe nepamusana pekuti hanzi vechidiki munyika vari kusangana nematambudziko akati wandei munyika pari zvino anosanganisira kushayikwa kwemabasa anosanganisira nyaya dzetransport hongu hurumende yakati yakazvigadzirisa nekukasika vamunangagwa vakati aiwa hanzi munyika hamuchangoshanda mazupo chete asi vaZimbabwe vari kuti aiwa ivo havana kufara before danho rakatorwa nehurumende saka vazeya iyoyo but haisiri ingoriyo nyaya chete yavazeya nyaya yetransport vazeya zvekare sezvandataurawo vazeya nyaya yetransport vakazeya nyaya yekushayikwa kwemabasa vakazeya nyaya yekusimudzirwa kwechidiki vaGwazemba ndambovabvunzawo ndikati hongu tirikunaka kuti 2023 sarudzo dzekutsvaga mutungamiriri wenyika mutsva dzakutosvika muna 2023 nyika yose ichange ichivhota munhu wese achivhotera maMP makansela pamwe chete napresident wavanoda saka ndavabvunza ndikati vaGwazemba tinonzwawo dzimwe nyanzvi munyaya dzezvematongerwo enyika vachikurudzira vanhu vachiti instead of kuinvesta energy yenyu muchirongwa ichi cheshutdown madi kuronga vechidiki maona kuti muna 2023 nguva yesarudzo vechidiki vazhinji vanobuda vachindoratidza kuti havasi kufara nemabatirwo ari kuita nyika movhota muchivhotera hurumende yamoda vaGwazemba vari aiwa hongu vari kuendera mberi nechirongwa ichi vari kudzidzisa vanhu nezvesarudzo dzemuna 2023 asi sezvambotaurwawo navaBeno Ncube pari zvino zvichemo zvevanhu zvichiri kuendera mberi saka vari kuti vachange vachiratidzira kusvikira hurumende yagadzirisa zvichemo zvavo. So that was my conversation there with Mr. Nyasha Gwazemba, a youth rights activist based in Ubuntu-Tunga, Zimbabwe. But now muri Zimbabwe, as you heard there in that conversation that I had with Mr. Beno Ncube, the president of SINASO, and also Mr. Nyasha Gwazemba, there was a discussion about voter education and youth partaking in the 2023 elections. Now, yesterday on Monday, youth members of several different political affiliations, ZANU-PF, the CCC, those are the main speakers at this organization, at this conference organized by the 4H Zimbabwe Foundation. The focus of this conference was so that young people can come together and talk about the 2023 elections, ensuring that the 2023 elections are a success and most importantly, peaceful. So let us hear from some of the youth who were speaking at this conference. Amongst them is Mr. Womberaishe Nende, who is a member of the CCC. So let's head over to that clip of Mr. Nende.
The issue whereby we have our candidates for council who have been arraigned before the courts on allegations of breaking electoral law with regards to registration of people at specific households. And this we see it as persecution by prosecution, as a targeted way of attacking our elected officials within CCC. So maybe he misconstrued me. I do understand that pastors have got the mandate to even sign affidavits. We have the commissioners of oaths, they are signing affidavits. The members of parliament are signing those affidavits. In that regard, I agree with them. But the issue was on whereby it is now systematic that people that are under CCC as councillors and MPs are being arraigned before courts for having signed those affidavits.
Now, as we wrap up tonight's discussion with Zimbabwe, we also have a clip from Honorable Vincent Tsvangirai, who is a member of parliament, and he's also the son of the late Dr. Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, Zimbabwe's former prime minister. So let's head over to Mr. Tsvangirai to hear his thoughts on this, this campaign being led by 4H Zimbabwe.
So I think we just need more programs to help us get back together or find a common ground to work towards. My comrades, I think all of us understand that in Zimbabwe, the youth comprise the population of about 70%. So tisu majority tirimo munyika muno. But if we look at my policies, the country as it stands right now, there's nothing benefiting the youth. Why do I say this? My youth we don't have jobs right now. And it doesn't matter whether you're ZANU-PF, it doesn't matter whether you're CCC, whether you're MDC. My youth just is nabas as it currently stands. So right now, I think through the youth caucus, these are issues that we should be pushing forward. Uko ground, uko tonates and yes. But can I tap in a room like this? Let's find common ground to help us bridge the gap in which for young people. The
program that we conducted today was a very progressive program. So MDCT, we are very happy because I think Sema youth takwanisa kuwana space yekuti across the political divide tinenge tichisangana tichitaura. I think zvinotireusa kutoti patinosvika kuma election we have a common understanding yekutoti izvi zvekuti ma leaders vanotiisa pamberi pema demonstrations tichikanda matombo atichadi takuda ma positions ekuti tinenge tichi-influence kuti politics zedu dzenyika dzirikufamba sei. So as young people, we are very happy that we've met like this. I think it's a very good program moving forward for the country. Yes. There's no doubt that there is apathy amongst youth. But for ZEC to say kuti tisu sema political parties tirikonzeresa apathy yacho, I think it's very wrong for ZEC to say that. We have an example that was spoken about in here by one of our members that said we have the situation in Chegutu, for example. When young people are seeing issues like that happening, it will cause them to be apathetic because they'll then say elect vanhu vedu, but then ZEC yozotisira umwe munhu. So I think for ZEC to say that is very irresponsible for them. I think sema interested parties, we must come together and try and shape kuti ZEC yacho yatiri kuda se referee inofanira kubuda ine ma policies akadai for us to feel kuti ZEC as a referee is impartial.
My time is up here, Muri Zimbabwe. Once again, if you're looking to chat with me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mike Hove _. I repeat, at Mike Hove _. That is my Twitter and Instagram username. So if you're looking to be part of the show, head over to Twitter and Instagram and you can find me there. Studio 7, same time, same place next week.